Hi, this is Peter Godinez, your ambassador from KADYTV.net, and today we have the lovely privilege of interviewing Mary Bergen, and she is from the Casitas Municipal Water District. Mary, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to visit us.
Oh, this is my pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
It's wonderful to have you. And you know, let's just start from the beginning. I would just love to find out, where were you raised and some of your background? You want to kind of look in the archives of that?
Absolutely. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and my dad was an attorney. My mom grew up in Los Angeles also. In fact, my family, my grandfather was born in Ventura. And we were city folk, but I was always a tomboy. I loved the outdoors. And then, lucky me, when I was about 11, my parents bought a ranch in Ojai. And we spent all weekends and holidays there. And I always say that's where my heart grew up, that while I was in Los Angeles and having to go to dancing school and a few things like that, it was the horses and the great outdoors that I really loved. And then when I was in high school, I went to a girls' school down in Los Angeles, and then when it came to deciding what I wanted to do, I thought I would either be an archaeologist or maybe a big animal veterinarian. And I decided to go for the archaeologist side of things, and I went off to Stanford University up in Palo Alto, where I found out that archaeology is not finding good big civilizations and gold and such. And I took a general biology course, and I fell in love with biology. And Stanford has Hopkins Marine Station down in Monterey, and I became a marine biologist. So that was my career for many, many years. I went off, and after graduated from Stanford, I went to UC Santa Barbara and got a master's degree.
Sort of gaucho then too, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
And then I worked in consulting, worked on power plants and other kinds of ocean issues. And then I was working at USC at the Marine Science Institute there, and we were doing a lot of the early work on power plants and also on oil drilling. And I had gotten to kind of a middle level there and was getting bored with doing things like counting 14,000 brittle stars and such, which you have to do when you're doing marine biology. There's wonderful field work, but there's also some things that are not quite so exciting. So I decided to go back for my Ph.D., which I did. And I got my Ph.D. from USC.
You've gone some great places.
Oh, I have, and I had a wonderful career in marine biology, and after that I went up to San Francisco and worked for EPA Region 9 for a while, and worked on sewage discharges and ocean dumping and such. And then I found that job was not quite right for me, and so I actually quit that job and then ended up working as a consultant, and then I worked for the state of California with the California State Lands Commission for a number of years up in Sacramento, also working on ocean issues. So over time, I moved back down to Los Angeles. I got a job in a research group. My mom was getting older, my dad had passed away, and I needed to take care of her. So I moved back down here. And then after my mom passed away, I took over managing the ranch in Ojai. In 1972, my dad had planted avocados, and we have a good avocado orchard, so I took over managing the orchard, and basically ended up, I worked a little bit more in consulting for a while, but basically ended up retiring from marine biology and took over becoming a farmer. And so I was doing that when a friend of mine who's also a farmer called me up one day, and the Casitas Municipal Water District, which manages the water supply for much of Ojai, he called me up and said that the person in my division was not going to run again, and he asked me if I would run for office. And my first thought was, oh no. And my second thought was, geez, this is really important. And it's not only important for the community, but it's important for me as a farmer, because water and water prices are one of the great drivers of the economics of agriculture, not only in the Ojai Valley where we are, but just overall. So I did. And I was lucky I won. And so that's where I came on and started doing being on the board. And the board, basically, they're the oversight body. You know, I spend, my major thing that I do that I consider important is watch the finances. I've been on the finance committee, subcommittee since the beginning. We have, besides bi-monthly board meetings, we each are on, each of the board members is on 2 subcommittees. And I've been on this finance subcommittee from the very beginning. And so I, every month, go over the details of the finances to see, and we go over every single bill. And we're very fortunate in that the staff is good, and the disclosure is very good, and it's quite easy to see what's going on. But to have that hand in there to make sure things are being well spent and that they're being efficient is very important.
Lots of detail.
It's a lot of detail. It's like anything else. You have to put in the detail, nitty-gritty to get to the bigger picture. And fortunately, I am a numbers person. I've always been interested, even in my marine biology. I spent a lot of time crunching numbers and writing reports, and you know, numbers are just something that I do love.
So besides just counting units, which you're talking about, there's other equations that...
Oh yeah, with marine biology, we always used to laugh that all of us got into marine biology because we love to go out and go diving and get in the field, but as you go through your career, you end up more in the lab, which is where I got more bored, and then you end up crunching numbers and writing reports, and you finally end up with budgets and management and those kinds of things. So that's the normal way of a career. I mean, you get to have skills that you still get out in the field a little bit.
Of course,
but
just a little balance between everything.
A little balance. You've got to keep your life in balance, absolutely.
Now, what part of Los Angeles? I was curious, because when you say LA, that covers so much, but...
I was in an area that just south of Hollywood.
Okay.
Yeah, Hancock Park.
Okay, I know what it is.
So it was a very nice area of town, and it was a great place to grow up. When we roller skate down the street, and you know, we never locked the houses, and it was a very, very nice place to
Different times, huh?
Very different times. Very different times.
You sound like you had some incredible parents, and I would love to hear a little bit more about them and how they affected you and how you became. Would that be okay to ask you?
Absolutely. Yeah, my parents were very special people. My dad was an attorney. He was born and raised in Indiana. His father was a dentist. He went to Northwestern and then on to Harvard Law. And then he decided he wanted to come west, and he did. And he joined a firm very early on called Melvin & Myers, which is one of the very good firms down in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And I think one thing that comes to mind with him is he said as a lawyer that his job was to keep people out of court. And another little good piece of advice he always gave me is, if you lose your temper, you've lost the fight, which is not always easy to do. Not always easy to do. My mom was an extremely talented woman. She loved the arts. She loved gardening. And she was, I think, really the person who pushed to have a ranch in Ojai because she really loved the outdoors. And just she loved to read. In fact, I laughed that when I was cleaning out her house after she passed away, that many of the drawers were filled with books. She just ran out of places for books. She really gave me that love of books myself. I do love to read, and I do love to garden, and I think that those are things that I got from my mom and dad. And then, of course, the experience of being 11 and being able to go out in the great outdoors and ride horses and all that. I think that had a great deal to do with we had a lot of freedom. When you consider, you know, the way things are now, we had a lot more freedom in some ways. I see pictures, my dad took some videos, and there are pictures of my brother, who was about 5, getting on a horse and galloping around the pasture all by himself.
Nobody touched him except for the grass, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we survived it all and had a great good time.
Did you share, so you shared a brother with these wonderful parents?
I have a brother and a sister. unfortunately, my brother did pass away very young.
Sorry.
But my sister and I are very close, and she lives down in Los Angeles, still down in Santa Monica.
It's good. So you guys check into with one another.
Oh yeah, we talk every day, twice a day.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. But who's your entourage now? Talk to us about your family you have now.
Well, you know, through the course of just happenstance, I never had children of my own.
Okay.
But my sister had 3, and and we now have grandchildren. Notice I say we because
It's a team.
It is a team, and we do family vacations. In fact, we're all going to get renting a house and meeting together. The kids and grandkids live in Durango, Colorado.
Really?
Yeah, they wanted to be here, but housing prices for youngsters are just brutal.
Oh, it's too much.
So, but Durango's a lovely town, and they are all there, and they're a good family. And we get together. We see them probably once, twice a year at least. And we email and send photos and do all that. And they're wonderful, wonderful kids.
Are you Auntie Mary? Are you Aunt Mary or Nana Mary? Or
I am Aunt Mary. Yes.
Aunt Mary.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
I'm always curious to know that one.
Yes, definitely Aunt Mary.
Well, that's good. And so you have grandchildren. So the children that you have now that you team up with, how old are they now? It sounds like they're adults, right?
Oh well, Dana is 42, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife's a little younger, and then Adeline, I think, is in her late 30s. The kids, Adeline has 2, and they are 11 and 12 now. And then Dan and Stephanie have 3 and 4.
Wow.
So
it's quite a reunion when you get together.
Oh, it's a big group. It's a big.
It must be a fun time.
It's a lot of fun, and they're really good kids, really good grandkids. And they just love my life.
Well, that's good. You seem like you're a very happy person, so either
I'm
just
blessed.
a great actress or just
No, I'm blessed.
That's good.
I'm truly, truly blessed.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So, just to talk about your position, what do you envision the next term? What would you like to come? That's not like you can control the weather, but what would you like to see accomplished in the position the next coming term?
One of the things that we're doing right now, or the staff is working on right now, is for drought controls, there are ordinances. It has to be done legally, and the legal process involves hearings and decisions as to how you're going to go about controlling water use. And the staff is in the process right now of revising the ordinances we have for drought control.
Right.
And that's an extremely important part of it. The subcommittee that's on water resources, which I'm not on right now, is dealing with the details of that.
Right.
But soon we'll have a draft, and then when we start working on that draft, that's going to be a very important thing. The idea behind it is to reduce use without creating catastrophe and too much economic hardship on people.
Mm-hmm.
And we're actually very lucky in the Ojai Valley in that we do have Lake Casitas, and it was built to be a backup water supply for groundwater. And there's pretty good cooperation between the different water companies in terms of using water and the relationship between groundwater and surface water.
Yeah.
And right now, Ojai's in a little bit better shape than some areas, but the lake is down, and everybody needs to conserve.
Yeah.
And then hopefully we're going to have rain this next winter.
It's one of these things.
You never, Mother Nature does as she pleases, and
Yeah.
the trick is to be, in Ojai, I'm a farmer,
Uh-huh.
and almost all the agriculture in Ojai Valley is orchards, and so you can't just turn them off. You have to have a certain amount of water at the very least to keep them alive, but you also have to have a little more water to have production. And if you don't have the income, you still have to pay the electricity and the labor and fertilizer and everything else. So you want to have enough water to be able to keep the orchards productive.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, you need to conserve
Mm-hmm.
to make it through. And then hopefully we won't get to that point where we're really down to the nitty-gritty last drop.
Now, you have a really wonderful staff. I was looking at your website. Do you have people who are, because I'm big into technology, they're researching technology, how to capture more things. I'm a rookie because I hear most of the water comes from snow, but rain. But are they talking technology in terms of being able to capture more?
Well, for Lake Casitas, all of the diversion comes off the Ventura River, and there is no snow up in the Sespe. It's all rainwater. Okay. And the amount of water that can be captured is entirely controlled by our biological opinion for steelhead. So we can divert when there's been a certain amount of rain and a certain amount of runoff, and then we ramp up with the discharge, and then we have to ramp down too to leave enough water in the river for the steelhead migration. And so we're really dependent on Mother Nature.
Okay. So there's some control when there's no
There's
control.
some things we can't control, and it's certainly in terms of conservation we can. And then elsewhere in the valley, there's some projects to try to increase groundwater storage, which Casitas doesn't do, but it's part of the whole picture in the whole valley.
Yeah. Well, this is probably the toughest question I'm going to ask you, but going to USC, UC Santa Barbara, and Stanford, like, I don't know, you don't look like you're too much of a football fan, but when Stanford plays USC, who do you usually root for?
Oh, I have to admit to Stanford.
Oh,
I'm probably going to kill all chances.
Okay, all right. I was telling, I know I'm going to get in trouble for asking that question, but I had to ask.
Well, when you're a graduate student, you don't have as much
That's true.
connection.
That's true.
You're really looking at your studies more so than when you're an undergraduate.
That's a fun question.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering that one. And just finally, it's sometimes some people have a hard time answering it, but what do you want to be remembered most for who you are and what you're doing?
I think I want to be remembered as a member of my community. I mean, that's the thing to me that has me on the water board, and really is a great enjoyment of my life is being involved. Ojai is a fairly small community, and I love that. And I love the person-to-person communication and the feeling that we are working as a community and trying to get to the best place for everybody. And that's what I hope that I'm remembered as being a good member of my own community, and that maybe I've helped just a little teeny bit to make it better.
Nicely put. Mary, thank you so much for being a part of the interview. You did great. You seem like a nice person you are. So
well,
thank you so much for being a part of the interview.
Well, I enjoyed it.
This is Peter Godinez, your ambassador from K80Y TV. We hope you enjoyed the interview.